Hey, it's Billie from beasexpert.com, and I am really excited to be guest blogging for TheRealvolution. I think this is an incredible forum for sharing experience, and it's a really, really helpful and wise channel. Today's topic is about sex and sexuality and what that means to me. I'd really like to start by noting when I first discovered my genitals. Now, most people end up discovering their genitals if they were raised in the United States, and the reason behind that is all of our baby dolls, Barbies, whatever, when we're growing up, aren't anatomically correct, and so our parents teach us our nose, our elbow, our lips, but nothing really in between. My first memory of my genitals was actually when I was 5 or 6. I had a hormonal imbalance, which I didn't know at the time that that's what it was, but it was a hormonal imbalance, and it meant that my labia fused together. So rather than having two separate labia majora, they started to actually fuse. So I ended up starting to have kind of that moundless, anatomically kind of incorrect looking genitals. And what my parents needed to do was actually, they needed to put a hormonal cream on it to help my hormones balance. But what ended up happening at the time, they didn't really know enough about it, and so they ended up just tearing my labia apart, which is my first genital memory. Since then, though, I have had a mostly pleasant sexual experience growing up. I think I was sexually active at a fairly young age. You know, when you know about your genitals that young, it's kind of hard to avoid them. It's such a wonderful world. Why ignore it? So I became sexually active fairly young, and originally, when I was sexually active, I was also fairly involved with Christianity, and so my initial take was that I wanted to protect my virginity, but I believed at the time that the only way one person would lose their virginity is through penetrative, like penis in vagina sex, and so anal sex, oral sex, nothing else counted. So it wasn't until years later that I looked back and kind of realized that I was probably sexually active a lot longer than I had been admitting to myself. Another question I get asked a lot is, when did you realize you were bisexual? And I think that just like for a heterosexual person, there's no defining moment when they know that they're straight. And for me, there was no defining moment when I realized that I was attracted to women. I did come out to one of my friends, and it was a friend who I'd grown up with, and one of the first women that I had experimented with growing up. And I was probably in the 8th grade, and I came out to her, and she did not reciprocate. I was kind of hoping that I would, admit to her that I was interested in women, and she'd be like, me too, but like really, like we're not just playing around and, developing and whatever, being kids, but that we would, go off into the sunset, and that is not how it worked. She said that she was straight, but remained my dear friend, which is lovely. And what else? My first crushes. I think this is one of the most unique things about us is you always remember like your first crush. I had like 3, and it was probably a tie between Littlefoot, the dinosaur, Casper, the friendly ghost, but not just in ghost form, also at the end of the movie where he turns into this handsome freckled boy, and then the girl from Jurassic Park, because there's this part in the movie where she holds onto the table and she like sees the T-Rex, and she has this indented area on your neck. I have no idea what it's called, but I thought it was gorgeous. So she's like really scared. I don't know why. I thought it was so pretty. Anyways, those three and me, it would have been a party. Oh, that's so goofy. What else about my sexual experience? I think sex is really healthy, and as a sex coach, most of what I do is give people permission to have a healthy sexual life and to do whatever it is that they do that makes them feel good, as long as it doesn't interfere with somebody else or harm anybody else. And I think that that permission is something that I never necessarily got overtly growing up, but it was never really discouraged either. And even though it was self-inflicted at times, my parents aren't of any religious affiliation. I think that I grew up fairly well balanced with my sexual history. So I really love the topic. I'm excited to hear what other people's sexual histories are. And if anybody else had a defining moment of when they remember discovering their genitals, because I think that's a really, really intriguing thing. So I'm going to let you go, and thanks for having me as a guest blogger. I'm excited to see what the rest of the month brings.